Hey, everybody, if you're watching, I'm having technical difficulties. 1 second. All right, I think I got this working. Hang on tight. We'll be here in a second.
Hey, what's up? If you like board games, miniatures, and the smell of paint and glue, you are in the right place. Welcome to Boardgasm.
All right, let's get this party started. What's up? Welcome to Boardgasm, everybody. Hold on. All right, people are coming in. Come on in, people. If you can hear me, let me know. Happy Friday, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. For some reason, I had 2 live channels running at the same time. I don't know how. Weird. I'm still learning all this nonsense, but we're here on a Friday, and I'm glad to see people in here. Dude, tonight's going to be cool, man. This is Boardgasm, episode 9. This is how I'm going to teach my Dungeon Master secrets. What's up? I got William in here. Hey, Eric. What's up, people? Laws of Enoch. Max Heel. What's up? Come on in. Come on in. Let's get cozy. As I settle down, let me know how the sound is. I have a lesser microphone right now because of some configuration issues. Part of my journey of doing all of this is learning how to do the tech crap. So, let me know what it sounds like. 1 second here. Tonight's beer is All Out, no alcohol craft beer. Athletic Brewing Company. Look how dark this stuff is. It's like pitch black. Cool. We got Dungeon Masters in here. Well, I'm going to tell you how I got into all of this tonight. and my journey through the different games I've run and different systems and my personal little tricks. So sit tight, grab a drink, grab some snacks. If you got kids around, kids, learn how to Dungeon Master. Everybody wants to play these games. Might as well learn how to Dungeon Master. All right. Let me switch the tunes up a bit. I'm going to put on an LP. I like vinyl. I do CDs too sometimes, but vinyl's my game. There we go. We got a DCC judge in here. Oh, we're talking about DCC. Don't worry. So first and foremost, if you're in here for the first time, please subscribe to my channel. I'm at just over 500, and I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year, and I think I can do it. It's not easy. Basically, I'm working every day now on these things. So if you're new here, subscribe, like, hit that notify bell, and welcome to Boardgasm. Wow, we got gamers in here. Dawn, we got lots. Tonight's a game night. So I thought before I start the actual show on Dungeon Masters, on how to be a Dungeon Master, I'm going to mention next Friday, the 13th, is episode 3 of Behind the Devil's Curtain. And it's going to be on necromancy and ventriloquism. Yeah. So if you're into puppets and all sorts of stuff, got you on in the background as I crack away at my core rulebook. Neon Lords! So Neon Lords is in here chatting, and he has a game right now on Kickstarter. And they broke their record. They beat their number in 3 days. Congrats, Neon Lords. Neon Lords is a new role-playing game. So the creator's in here right now watching. So welcome. And afterwards, go look at his Kickstarter. I think you're going to be impressed. I'll talk about that a little later. Anything you guys want to know about, put it in the chat. Throw it in the chat, and I'll answer questions all night. Please let me know, how is the sound? Can you hear me? I hope so. All right. I'm going to start by... I'm going to tell you how I got into role-playing games. So, as a little kid, in the summer in central Pennsylvania, we would go to like a public pool, right? And I'm going to be honest, I actually didn't like swimming in public pools. I don't like the smell of chlorine, and I ain't the sporty kind of kid. I'm more of the kid that plays role-playing games. So, I was not in the pool, but wandering alone, looking for kids to play with and fun things to do, and it wasn't a busy day. And there was like the pool, a kiddie pool, and a pavilion of sorts, right? Where people would eat their fried mushrooms and junk food. And I saw 2 kids sitting at a table doing something. And I was kind of looming around looking, and they had on the table metal miniatures. Unpainted metal miniatures. And I was like, what is that? And they looked like they wanted to explain it to me, which I think is cool. Like, they were like, hey, come here, I want to show you something. So I went over, and I was like, what game is this? I was like about between 8 and 10 years old. And they were like, it's Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, cool, where's the pieces? And they were like, well, they're these little metal things, and there's dice, but the game happens in your mind. And I was just like, okay, made no sense to me. And they were like, then I started asking about the metal miniatures. And they're like, yeah, you can get a metal miniature for any type of character you want to play, and you can actually get a dragon. What do you mean? They're like, yeah, it's a big metal miniature, and you can fight dragons. And it didn't really, I didn't get it. I kind of got it, but I didn't get it, which is why a lot of people don't know anything about these games. Fast forward a year or two later, maybe a year and a half later, and I got the red box. It's a little red box with these 2 little rule books inside. These are the ones I had as a kid. And it came with dice, the Zachi set, or Zaki, as some pronounce it. And I don't know if any of the old timers remember, but when you got polyhedral dice in the old days, they were clear, crystal, and it came with a crayon. And you took the crayon, and that's how you colored the numbers in, which is kind of cool. And that's how it came. So this was my intro. This actually starts you off with a solo mission. Like a, what do you call it? Like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. And I remember not really getting this either. Like I got it, but I didn't have anybody to play with, which is why a lot of people don't get to do these games. So, fast forward 2 or 3 more years later, middle school, that was it. I started seeing kids carrying around their rule books, and my good buddy Jeff Long, I don't know if he's watching, he had the rule books, he had Dungeon Master's Guide, Player's Handbook, and he invited me to learn how to play. So he basically showed me, and then he would have games at his house in his living room. And there was about 7 of us. And my memory was, of those games, I didn't quite know what was going on. I was a player. It was fun. I remember us not doing much. I remember us going to a tavern and getting into fights, and basically it staying around the tavern many times. It was very rare that we got to go anywhere. And I remember playing Ravenloft. That was one of the big ones we would do. But I would play. I was a player. I think the dungeon mastering was a little wonky then, because none of us knew what we were doing. It was just fly by the seat of your pants and figure out how this thing works. If you're watching and you still have no idea what Dungeons and Dragons is and how it works, don't worry, we'll get there. So then I got a little older, and I started, I had the rule books. And actually, right here, I actually bought used the original Dungeon Master's Guide, not the advanced, the newer covered one. And then I bought, here we go, with Dungeons and Dragons rule books. What the hell is my player's guide? Well, anyway, I started getting the books. Now, back in those days, not everybody had all the books. These were expensive. These were like $15 back then. Here's Fiend Folio, Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, right? These, oh, here we go. This is Unearthed Arcana, all by Gary Gygax, mind you. Saint Gary Gygax. None of us had all the books, but together we had all the books. So I didn't have monster manuals. I didn't have deities and demigods. So that was what we had. And I got a little older, and I wanted to Dungeon Master, but we didn't need a Dungeon Master. And then I discovered a game that I thought, hey, I can Dungeon Master this. Toon by Steve Jackson Games. Now, if anybody doesn't know what this is or has never played it, or if you have kids, I highly recommend Toon. All you need is the core rulebook. They do have others. Now, you can get these used. I think they have PDFs of them for download on the Steve Jackson site. And you only need 6-sided dice. So, it's a really simple system. And this is the game I used to do. This is how I started Dungeon Mastering. And the reason why I'm glad I started with this is it's very simple. The character sheet looks like that. It's very simple. I mean, that's it. And it's based on a 6-sided dice system. And basically, you create a cartoon character. A couple people create cartoon characters. And the Dungeon Master is what we call in the game called the Animator. And he's in charge of the cartoon they're in. It's all about being creative and smart. And, like, for instance, in this game here, if your character's got a low smart level, if he falls off a cliff, the character can go, my character's stupid and doesn't know what gravity is. And the animator goes, okay, roll. And if he fails, it's true. So, I do like this a lot. And I started running games with this. I still wasn't what I considered a dungeon master. And then, fast forward to college. Now, in college, I went to a snobby theater school called Carnegie Mellon, and we were all actors and musical theater people. And in my class, we didn't have a large class. I think my class started with 40, and we graduated like 22 or 23 kids. And in that group, there was a lot of game people. A lot. And they would come over to my house every Sunday morning. And we would play for about 6-7 hours. And there's a couple movie stars that were in that game. I won't say who they are. I won't out them. But yeah, no kidding. And we would play, and I still wasn't the Dungeon Master. It was my friend Greg Sims. You might know him from the Jellin' Like a Felon commercials. Jellin' Like a Felon. That guy was my Dungeon Master. He was really good. He was an awesome Dungeon Master. It might help that he was a Carnegie Mellon actor, but he really knew how to run the game. And I still remember, well, we did all of those big like there was a Ravenloft campaign and the Forgotten Realms, all that stuff started coming in. And I can still close my eyes and remember them like movies, how powerful they were. And there was about 6 of us. One of the persons playing would draw what was going on my wall. So after a year or so, I had this wall of amazing art and crazy stories. After that experience, then I learned how to Dungeon Master. And I didn't learn with Dungeons and Dragons. Nope. I learned with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And this, for, I don't know, a good 20 years was my favorite role-playing game book. It's a really thick book. And it takes place in the world of Warhammer, which I was playing the miniature game, not the role-playing game, okay? And I learned how to do this game. I liked it more than Dungeons & Dragons because I thought it was easier to run. I thought the game... Oh, we got a new subscriber! Thank you! Hey, if you're watching and you're not a subscriber, please go subscribe. It helps my channel, like, immensely. Now, donations, you can donate. That goes too. That goes into my gear and running the show. And if you donate $25, you go on my list. You go on a special list. And you'll see what that's for. No, I like Warhammer because of this reason alone. It uses percentage dice, which is a 10-sided die, and you roll 2 of them, and you can do like a percentage roll. People that don't game understand that. It's very easy. So as a Dungeon Master, I thought, hey, it'd be cool to learn a system that's easy for them to understand. For new players, because people have a hard time finding players, right? So I got good at Dungeon Mastering that. And for years, I would run Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And in that game, you don't pick fighter, wizard, thief. No. You roll and you get a job. You could be basically an exterminator, or a beggar, or a road warden. And from that job, you become a hero, which I thought was kind of cool. And my journey of Dungeon Mastering was Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition was garbage. It was literally a board game. They made it into a terrible board game with no point. And 4th edition, could care less. It offered me nothing new. I don't think it's bad. I don't like the art in the book. I mean, and we'll talk about that. I see a lot of you are in here talking about the artists. Jeff Easley and Isley. I don't know how to pronounce these names. But yeah, some of these guys were amazing artists, and that is part of what makes this game special. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So, here I am Dungeon Mastering Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and about 2 years ago, no, a year and a half ago, wait, is it 2 years ago? Year and a half, 2 years. I was in a local game store in New York City called 20-Sided Store. Highly recommend it. It's in Brooklyn, and the owners are awesome. They love gaming, and they have a lot of independent games. And I walk by, and I see, I'm always looking at this rule book. I would walk by this rule book a million times, and I would be like, all right, it's kind of old school looking. Look how thick it is. But I never paid attention to it. One day, I picked it off the shelf and just did one of these. And the first thing I noticed was the art blew my mind. Maybe because some of the original Dungeons & Dragons guys did the art in here. And we had new artists that I'd never seen before. Blew my mind. And then I looked at some of the rule sets, and I said, you know what? This is great. And I'll explain in detail why this changed the way I Dungeon Master. A lot. It made me a better dungeon master. It made the games better. It made new players join in easier. And, you ready for this giant thick book? Printed on the back is the price. $24.99. That's it! It's ridiculous. It's so cheap, it's silly. And that's how I got here today. And I have played thousands of hours of games. I've played a million role-playing games. I even showed you. When I was a kid, I got this. DC Heroes. The DC World role-playing game. So I didn't have a lot of different ones, but I've been playing board games and role-playing games for so long that when I finally found DCC, I said, I'm done. I found a system that's so easy to run and make up adventures for. Ooh, let's see here. People in here chatting. DCC. We have a lot of DCC fans. We're going to have fun tonight. So that's how I got into this world of dungeon mastering. Now, I'm going to say something straight up. I think when you're playing these games... Well, first let me talk about fluff. I don't know if you guys know what fluff is. Fluff gamer. I'm a fluff gamer. I like the background stuff. A fluff gamer would be somebody that prefers maybe not a good game, but the intellectual property is something they like. Like, let's say a role-playing game that takes place in Godzilla Land. There isn't one that I know of. But, like, I would like that. And even if the rules weren't that great, I would make the rules better just so I could use the system with the Godzilla monsters. That's why I liked Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I know this world. I know it. If you say, if you start talking about Bretonia, I know where it is on the map. I know the type of people there because I read the books and I played the other version. But I gotta say something, and this is kind of neat. As I played more role-playing games, I stopped liking fluff that's people know about in a role-playing game. For instance, DC Heroes. I don't like... Because then people, when they're playing, are thinking about the movies or the comics. And I don't want that. It would be like playing Middle-earth. I don't want to do that. Why? Because everybody's going to think of the movie or the book. I want a world that they don't know. That they got to ask me questions I know. And I would say Dungeons & Dragons has that element. It's a new fantasy world that they've created. I prefer the Dungeon Crawl Classics, the DCC one, better. It's a little zanier, a little spacier, if you will. So fluff to me is important, but yet it's actually in these games not important. I want it to be a fresh palette. So here's what role-playing games are in a nutshell for me. It is a game, and it really is a game and should be a game, where there's a person telling a story with a certain goal in mind. And the players, using dice and statistics and their characters that they made, follow a set of rules that basically allow them to do anything they want in the game. And the Dungeon Master helps them organize those rules to see if those things happen. And through storytelling elements and play acting, the adventure unfolds in your mind. If you have 5 players playing these games, they are all basically, everybody's sharing a dream together. It's all a little different, but they're all sharing a dream. And that is why this game is so powerful. You could play for 8 hours and it's over, like in a blink. You're like, wow, we just played for 8 hours. And the memories are vivid. And for children, this is a wonderful thing. It's a way of play acting and working out problems in this fantasy world using dice. And I'm going to talk about dice in a second. Let's take a break here. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of what I do and how I run it and styles of play, I found something. I'm going to click over to the hand cam. Look at these minis. Now, I'm a mini guy. I paint miniatures every day. I haven't painted this set yet. This is... Grenadier Models used to make some awesome box sets, and here's one right here. Just the art alone I love. I'll take this off here. Here's the insert. In the old days, these were expensive. These were crazy. Here you go. These are the metal minis that those kids had on the table when I was watching them. You can tell they're hand sculpted. They're kind of, shaped weird, which I like. I'm a fan of hand sculpted minis. Here's some sort of wizard character. Yeah, so check that out. Now let's talk about dice. So when you're playing these games, you need dice. And with Dungeons and Dragons, you use a basic Zachi set, or Zaki, I believe it's pronounced. Louis Zaki made the company that made these popular. These are polyhedral dice. That's a basic set right there. If you're a gamer, you know what I'm doing here. When I Dungeon Master, I use ones that are this big because they're scary and make loud noises on the dice tray. And then, if you play Dungeon Crawl Classics, DCC, these are called weird dice. And, oops, this might be a turnoff for some players. It's a set of 14 dice. Oh my gosh, my table's crooked today. Look how many dice there are in this set. This is and we call it in the game world, these are called weird dice. There are 14. And in DCC, you use them all. Now, here's the crazy part about this. The crazy part is you really don't need all of those dice. You can substitute dice. For instance, if you have a 6-sided dice and you want to roll a D3, a 3-sided dice, you just roll the 6. And that's the 1, that's the 2, that's the 3. There's ways of using just a few dice. But it's kind of fun having all these weird little gems that you get to roll. And who doesn't like dice, buying dice? There's a whole crazy scene right now of dice collecting. So let me move these Zachi. I used to call them Zochi. Now I think it's called Zaki. Louis Zaki. I'm going to go look that up. All right, let me put this here. And this here. And here's a dice tray. I'm going to show off a dice tray now. That is one of my trays. I make these by hand. Anybody interested? Boardgasm dice trays. Custom ones too, and I mean really custom. What's his name's got one? Neon Lords! Yeah, he's got a good one. Look at this. So this is a dice tray, and I'm going to say right now, if you're a Dungeon Master, you should use dice trays. It makes the dice rolling fairer, leaner, and meaner, and focused. All right, where are we? There we are. Hi. Yeah, I wanted to show you those minis. Okay. So let's get moving here on talking about what a Dungeon Master does and what he's supposed to do, and then I'll talk about what I do. So the Dungeon Master, let's just talk about the word Dungeon Master. So Dungeon Master's owned by, well, it was TSR, and now it's Wizards of the Coast own Dungeons and Dragons, and they own the name Dungeon Master. So a lot of people, when they're playing this, they call it game mastering as not to conflict. Like if I created my own role-playing game, I'm not allowed to call it a Dungeon Master. I have to call it Game Master or something new. Dungeon Crawl Classics, DCC, it's called a Judge. So I'm Judge Adam Cardone. And in that game, when I talk about it, you'll see you really are more of a judge. It's a different vibe. But I like the word Dungeon Master. I like the cartoon. Dungeon Master sounds great. It's got the word dungeon and it's got the word master. And there isn't a Game Master Appreciation Day. There is, however, a Dungeon Master Appreciation Day. Page. Where did that come from? I have the yawn. Sometimes I get the yawns when I talk a lot. Isn't that weird? Whew. Oh, wow. All right, Walking Wizard, you're going on the list. Walking Wizard, just, I believe, yeah, there he is. Cool, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. It really does. Let me put this down. Walking Wizard, you're on the list. The list is going to be locked content. And some of the stuff that's up now is going to get locked soon. And you will have access to it all. Thank you. You guys are the ones getting me to 1,000. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So, where was I? Oh yeah, what's the job of the Dungeon Master? I'm going to call it Dungeon Master, because it's just easier. And when we get to DCC, I'll start calling it Judge. His job is to, A, know the rules of the game. He's got to know how to play the game. Which is why I always Dungeon Master. I prefer playing. I really do. I like being a player. So if I get an opportunity to play, I'm in. But the Dungeon Master knows the rules, which is why I'm always the Dungeon Master, because I'm the nerd that reads these things all day. The second thing he does is he prepares the adventure. He knows it. He knows where it's going. Oh, here we go. We got, dude, you guys rule. This is great. Max Heal going on the list. Max Heal going on the list. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, so, like, you got to know where the story's going, and you got to know what the possibilities are, right? That's your job. Your job also is to keep the game moving, organize how the players are playing, and teach them how to be better players all the while. Being a Dungeon Master is not easy. Sometimes people take it personally, and you got to really make it seem fair and balanced. Now, there are 2 or 3 kinds of Dungeon Masters that I know. One are the guys that are basically, they make it, it's all about fun. The dice rolls doesn't mean much. If the character dies, they'll fudge it just to make the game move. They want epic, fun stories. That's how they Dungeon Master. They want it to be a storytelling game that's got improv and some dice rolling to spice it up. Then you have the guys that play it hardcore to the rule. I mean, everything, you can't fudge anything. Everything's down to the wire and kind of serious. And anything you want to do, you got to roll the dice, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You would think, well, most people wouldn't like that. They like the other one better because it's more fun and exciting, right? But over the years, the more I play, I like the other one better. I like the one that's more serious and more about how those rules work. Because once you master that, it becomes real. It really does. The stakes are high. You get nervous. I get nervous watching them play because I'm like, oh my God, that guy might die right now, and he's had that character for 2 years. I feel bad. But he's the one that touched the poisonous door handle, and, you know, he could have checked, but he didn't, so he's going to die. And all the other players now will check every door handle from now on. So I actually lean to that now, and I'll explain that a little bit when we get to DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, the Dungeon Master is the eyes and ears for the players. He's the one that they ask questions to. What do I see? What do I hear? What's over there? That's the Dungeon Master. So if you're a player, you got to ask you got to be talking. Players that don't talk aren't very good. You got to ask questions. A million questions. You got to be patient, but you got to ask questions, okay? Planning. It also depends who you're playing with. I'm going to mention this. I've Dungeon Mastered for strangers many times. I've Dungeon Mastered for best friends. It's a different vibe. I am one of those guys. Now, the new thing about Dungeon Mastering is to be very sensitive to modern topics. Things that are very, you got to watch what you say and do now because you might offend somebody. And we all know what that is now. It's very common. I mean, what do they call it? Cancel culture, right? So a lot of the rule books for role-playing games coming out bring up these subjects. They want them to be very politically correct, no eggshells. I personally don't like to go that route. I don't have an editing machine when I play. I like everything. I'm a free speech guy. Good, bad, all of it. The kitchen sink. But when you're playing with strangers, they're not your friend. I'm not good buddies with them. I might never be good buddies with them, but we might be game buddies. When you do that, you got to change the game. You got to respect that. Or you just tell them straight up, this is no holds barred. If you don't like it, then go away. You could do that, but that's not cool either. I try to be respectful to the stranger games that I do and keep it a little more on the neutral end. When I'm doing my own stuff, it means nothing. My editing machine's off and everything flies. But yeah, you know, when I started playing Warhammer, meaning the little miniatures on the table army, I was playing strangers all the time. That's what that was. I'd meet people that I've never met before, and here we are having an army battle. The other thing you got to decide as a dungeon master is the vibe of the actual gameplay. Some people use the minis. Now, you would think when I dungeon master these games, I use miniatures, and the answer is I don't. I have thousands of miniatures in my room over here, my studio. I don't use them when I do these games. I think it actually detracts from them a bit. Now, I wouldn't be upset if a player showed up with his own little mini and he had that in front of him. That wouldn't bother me at all. I think it'd be cool. But I don't need miniatures on a grid to figure out who's standing where. All I need is a piece of paper and a pencil, and I'll draw it really quick. I like the game to happen all here. The table should have a dice tray, there's some dice, and paper. And that's it. It sounds boring. If you're watching this and never played these things, it is not boring. It's like saying reading the Helm's Deep part of Lord of the Rings is boring. You're just sitting there reading words for hours. Sounds boring. Oh yeah, but the words? Wow. Helm's Deep. So, the Dungeon Master has a lot to do. You know, he's got to create balance, harmony. He's got to create an aesthetic of sorts, maybe. And I'm going to tell you how I do it in a second here. We're going to get to that. Yeah, art and style. God. Oh, yeah. So, I'm going to start getting into what I do and how I run a game and why I like Dungeon Crawl Classics. Goodman Games is the company that puts out DCC. And here's why I like it and prefer it. Where's the rule book? I have 2 rule books. Oh. This is the rule book I've been using nonstop. I can flip to basically any section I want. There's pencil written all through this thing. And then I bought a nice one with a fancy cover. They do like special edition ones. I bought this just as my reading one. This is the one I use to read and like take my time with. The other one is the one I use when I'm gaming. It's banged up and it's fine. The reason why I like that game is this. It has major differences than all the other games I've ever played. And here's a big major difference. If you don't know this, you're going to love this. Whenever I have players show up to play, each player makes 4 characters. 4 kind of weak characters. And I mean weak, like 1 hit point, 2 hit point. That's it. And it's all random. Most of it's a random thing. The only thing they get to pick is the name of the character and their alignment, their code that they follow of sorts. And in DCC, there are 3 alignments. There's lawful, neutral, chaotic. Dungeons & Dragons has 9. DCC made 3. And here's what happens. The first adventure you do in DCC is called a funnel. And the reason why it's a funnel is it funnels out the weak characters. And basically, in that first adventure, most likely your 4 characters probably will die. 3 of them, maybe you'll have 2 live. Whoever lives becomes a level 1 character. And that's the one that you play. So your first adventure is very different than the rest of the game. Because they don't do much. And I like that. It does something, and I'll explain. DCC is all about making these dice rolls in the open. Now, when you play Dungeons & Dragons, a lot of people don't realize this when you're playing, but like this little screen thing is hiding your notes so the players don't see what's going on. And I made this. This is cardboard with some photocopy. They sell them. And on the back, I have all of my cheat sheet info for the game. And traditionally, you roll dice, behind the screen, and you go, all right, it happened. You fired the arrow and it hit the guy. Or, All right, you avoided the trap, right? DCC, you roll it in the open. You get what you get. If you die, you die. It's really cut and dry. And having a level 1 or a level 2 character die, it actually means something. It's not like, It's like, oh, wow, that really happened. Wow, it's sad. So that's a major difference. The other major difference is how the hocus pocus magic works. I'm not going to get into the crazy detail of it, but in Dungeons and Dragons, if you're a wizard, you start off weak. Barely can do anything. And as you get higher levels, you become very powerful. DCC is the opposite. At a level 1, if you want, you can throw a really powerful spell. You'll hurt yourself, but you can do it. It's dangerous. As you age and get higher levels as a wizard in DCC, you start to get more volatile. You get a little more, you can blow up literally. You cast a spell and just, blow up. Because you're so, on the edge of chaos. So there's some major differences. It's also, DCC is extremely simple. The rules are easy to understand. They basically took the, I think, second or third, one of the old editions of this, like this, and they took Dungeons and Dragons and they made the rules a little more streamlined and better. Actually, a lot more streamlined and better. So I prefer Dungeon Crawl Classics for the aesthetic, the style of play, meaning it's cut and dry, you die. It's more violent like that. Like, it's edgy. And it makes the gameplay feel like, oh, God, people are, like, losing their characters. It gives it a little bit more, it gives it an edge. It makes it way more fun to play. I mean, way more fun to play. It means something. It's not frivolous. And that's why I picked that system. So how I dungeon master that game, I'm going to show you right now. First, I know the rulebook. And this rulebook is very logical and easy to understand. So if you're new at this, and you got kids, and you want to play role-playing games, I recommend Dungeon Crawl Classics, not Dungeons and Dragons. I think it's easy to get into. It's one rulebook. You basically can have one rulebook and never buy another one again. And they said they're not making more rules. They do an annual. This came out like last year, DCC Annual 1, and it's just some extra stuff. You don't need it. They fleshed out some ideas. But these aren't actual rules. It's just extra spells and stuff. So you got to know the rules. You got to be able to explain it to the player. You also have to be able to help them roll the characters up. And I think rolling characters is pretty much just as fun as playing the game. Now, one of my little tricks of dungeon mastering with new players is make the character rolling part an event. It's not like, all right, we got to roll these up. No, everybody watches when everybody's rolling dice, seeing how strong or how smart or how agile their character is. It's an event. It's like, whoa, he just rolled a 15 for strength. That's great. And everybody's clapping along and cheering them on. To me, that's part of the game. And I think you should be good at that part too, which is why, and I don't have it here, I made a Dungeon Master screen. Where is it? Oh, it's right over there. For just rolling characters. I put it out. It has all the charts in it. I photocopied them. And it's like character rolling time. I put this out, and we roll the characters. The other thing you need is a dice tray. And I don't mean you need to buy one off of me, even though I make great dice trays. I got sick of seeing square wooden dice trays. I wanted to see ones that looked fantasy, you know? I wanted it to look like, I say it in my ad, something Conan the Barbarian would want to roll dice on. I also like the sound it makes. It's got and when I roll my big old Dungeon Master D20, listen, it's like, oh. So, you need to know the rules. You need to be able to roll characters well and make it exciting. You gotta have a dice set. And with DCC, you don't need the crazy 14 dice thing. You can use the Zaki set. Which is, it's like 7 or 8 dice usually. That's the basic Dungeons and Dragons kind of set. You can get away with that because the book shows you how to do the other dice. Like this is a D30. Look at this thing here. I'll put the hand cam on. This is one of the DCC dice. It's a D30. And here's the D24. You can use the D24 to roll basically all the dice by dividing it how you want. What other weird ones are there? Oh, here's an ugly weird one. The D7. It's a really odd shaped die. And then there's the D5. Very weird. So, you need a dice set. You need to be able to... You need to know what the dice do, okay? You got to know that that's the D20, that's the D5. You got to know. Oh, question. Is it just me, or do you hate the new versions of the D4s? I'll put it right here. Look at this. I can't stand... All right, so the old D4 is a triangle. The new one is this weird shaped thing where the number is the top. The old-fashioned one, the number is the one on the bottom when you roll it. See, there's... Ooh, like here. Oh, here's a giant one. This is easier. This one, it's at the top. This one, it's like a rounded corner. And I think they did that so that if you step on it, it doesn't impale you. But I prefer the pyramid, just aesthetically. Yeah, this is a big one. So, you got to know your dice. And you can get now on Amazon Zaki dice. I think 3 sets for like $6-7. They have really cheap sets now. Yeah, all right, there you go. Lowe's of Enoch just said, yeah, he hates the weird D4. I hate it too, man. Let me look at some of these comments. Oh, man, you guys are... I love it. We got game nerds in the house tonight. Love it. So, now, let's say you're running an adventure. People go, well, what does that mean? Well, most rule books have 1 or 2 in the back. And then they either encourage you to make your own or buy their adventures. And DCC they sell adventures. They have a lot of them. And they're like $9. So if you think about $9 is 10 hours of fun, 2 game sessions, maybe 3. And, they come like a really thin little book. Yeah, these are $9.99. And some game companies, the way they write their adventures, I think it's hard for the dungeon master to prepare. It's almost like they expect you to read a novel, or a short story, I should say short story. And then through that short story, at the end, they give you a bunch of character stats and things. I don't like that. I like this. These not only come with awesome maps, but the way they... Oh, look at this one. Oh, shout out to the artists of DCC that I'm a fan of. We got Doug Kovac. He's in. He might even be watching. He jumps on my Instagram. We got Stefan Pogue. We got Mullen. There's so many. Look at this map. It's just a really well done map of the town of Herat. And then at the beginning, the way it discusses it, it basically gives you the background and then a synopsis of what the whole thing is that the players aren't supposed to know about. And then it starts off with how to start the adventure, how to plug it into your campaign. And what does that mean, campaign? Well, it means a series of adventures. Adventure this goes into that, and sometimes there are themed campaigns. Somebody just wrote Sailors on the Starless Sea. I have dungeon mastered that, or judged. We're called judges in DCC because it's a little harsher and makes sense. I've judged that game many times. It is a brilliant... I think I have it right here. This is adventures that I've done a million times. Oh, here it is. Sailors of the Starless Sea, folks. DCC is inspired by something that was in Dungeons & Dragons called Appendix N. Appendix N is in this book right here. And it's just a little like section in the appendix section of inspiration. What inspired Gary Gygax to make? It's literally just that. It's like very small. And what people don't realize is, yeah, it's got Tolkien, and it's got Lieber, the guy that did the Grey Mouser stories. It has those guys. It has, but you know what? It also has. It has H.P. Lovecraft, and it's got some weird stuff. So DCC's fantasy. It's definitely sword and sorcery. It's wizards and thieves and clerics. But it's got a weird psychedelic kind of tripped out feel to it, which is really cool. And it makes the game for me more fun. So you got your screen, you got a dice tray, you've got your adventure. You read it. I usually, like, if I'm going to game, like, let's say tomorrow night I'm going to run a game. Throughout the week, I'll look at the adventure, and I wake up in the morning and over coffee, quickly just go over it with a pencil, making notes. And I personally take a piece of paper and write down the major bad guys that they're going to be probably fighting. And I say probably because I try to make the game actually feel free. Let me ask you, can you guys hear the people on my porch right now? Listen. Shh, shh, shh. Can you hear that? There's a party in my porch. It's very funny. Any hoozles. So I prepare the adventure the morning of. I write down, Howard. Well, yeah, the Conan books are epic. Whenever I read Conan, I'm like, wow, this is very Dungeons and Dragons. It's just, it's all there. You got the thief, you got the fighter, you got the wizard, the evil wizard, the tower, the climbing. It's all in there. Oh, good. Neon Lord says no. Cool. Well, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go hang out at the party on my porch. We game on my porch. So I do Dungeon Master in here. We Dungeon Master on the porch. And during the pandemic, I've been doing a lot online. I'll talk about that. So anywho, it's weird because the porch, I know you can't hear it, but it's making me get like loopy because I can hear a conversation. It's in my head. Wait. Anywho. So then the other thing that I do in my games, and this is, I don't know if a Dungeon Master is watching do this. I have a notebook. I keep track of every game session. I keep track of who played and basically what happened and key characters. And then, this is nuts. Right now I'm running 2 different campaigns. I decided a while ago that I'm going to make both of those campaigns take place in the same world. They're happening at the same time. Events that they affect on this campaign might affect things happening over in this campaign. And they've come close to crossing paths. They haven't crossed paths yet, but they've come close. So Eric Carr says he can hear them. You've got a good mic, or a good speaker setup. So I make these games exist in this world, and I keep track of what's what. I made a map. I literally drew a line for the coast, and I put, here's the first city they're in. And they don't know anything else around here. And as they would travel, I would keep track of where they're going. And after a year or 2, 3 years, you have an actual living and breathing map where some of it's been mapped out and you know what kingdoms and towns are where. Some of it's a mystery. Some of it you heard of. That's the stuff I've been... And then, in DCC's case, they got the rights to do all the Lankmar stuff, which is, I mean, dude, Fritz Lieber wrote this stuff, and they made a box set of adventures in the town, in the city of Lankmar. And, dude, for running adventures, let me show you something. Whenever a player of mine goes to Lankmar, I show them the map. I'm like, folks, do you realize how big this city is? It is massive. It's like Manhattan. And I know all of these areas. You can go anywhere you want. It's really cool. I want my players, and I think every Dungeon Master should really make their players have the feeling like they're playing an RPG online where the world is really, you can do anything you want. If my players are like, I'm going to go try and assassinate the mayor of this town, really? All right, well, I'll show you how to do it. I mean, you can do it. You're probably going to die in the process, but I want them to feel like they can do anything they want. They can go here, go there, and all of their actions have consequences, good and bad. That to me is how you that's how you dungeon master. You know, everything has something happens. They do this, it goes this way. I encourage people to draw their characters too. Draw a little stick figure. It just visualizes it for people. If they imagine with long hair, put long hair. I encourage people to play characters out of their norm, things they might not like. That's why the random stuff's fun. When you can invent your character however you want from scratch, I don't think that's as fun as inventing a random character that's heavily flawed and making him into a hero. That's DCC. You start with these flawed, terrible characters. Maybe they're really dumb but really strong, or maybe they're really smart but so clumsy. That's why the game's fun. You capitalize on the strengths, you minimize the weaknesses. The other players start to realize who's good at what, who's bad at what, and that's why it's fun. That's where the teamwork comes in. And as a dungeon master, you have to teach your players how to do these things. Don't expect them to know how. They probably don't. Some do. In my adult campaign, I have some players that played when they were kids, so they know what's going on. One of my players, Brady, who plays Dice Man, the fighter, he, never say no to a PC. Correct. You never say, PC meaning player character. The people playing, I don't say no. If they go, I'm going to do that, I go, okay, well, let's figure it out. Like, and the other players like, no, don't do that. But you got to teach your players. My buddy Brady, who knows how to play, when we're playing, he'll be like, all right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to create a marching order. Like, the other players don't know this. But I assume people don't know what they're doing, and I teach them how to be a better player. And that's what he said, never say no to a PC, even if it means his death. Correct. I play the same way I learned in theater school to do improv. If I'm here and there's another actor here and we're like doing an improv skit and the actor goes, oh my God, look at that guy. There's a clown over there. Do you see the clown? A bad improver goes, I don't see a clown. I see a cop though. Terrible. You just killed the idea. You just literally disregarded you actually broke his reality. Because he's like, I see a clown. And you're like, no, you didn't. A good improver goes, the guy goes, oh my God, did you see the clown? And then the other guy goes, you mean that guy with... Why is he wearing purple shoes that light up on the tips? What is that? So you add to it. You don't take away, you give more. And as a player, you got to teach them how to do this. You also have to teach them... Sometimes you'll have people that make bad decisions in the game because they're role-playing. It happens. I have a player in my group that does it all the time. I like it. As a dungeon master, I love it. Sometimes the players don't. They get a little like, hey, dude, you're messing up the plan here. But he's role-playing. So I like that too. As a dungeon master, that's fun to watch that dynamic. Now, I'm going to warn you. I've had some tiffs in my games. People take things personally. I even had a kids game where one of the kids' characters died and it didn't fly well. Not only was the kid upset, the family was like, they wanted the character to come back. And I was like, I can't do that. It makes the whole game meaningless. Because now every character is going to want to do that. So you have to be very sensitive to the players. That's why the Dungeon Master job's not easy. It's not impossible. Anybody can do it. You just have to prepare. You have to be a Boy Scout. You have to be prepared. You have to know the game, the rules, and when you don't know something, admit it. If I get into where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do this, I'll say it. You know what? I'm not really sure how to run this. Let's figure this out. You're good at doing this, so I'll tell you what. We'll roll the dice and add 4 to it. Okay? Cool. You know, you need it to be fair and make sense. And also write it. I keep a notebook. Okay? I love that you said never say no to a PC, even if it's death. You know what I would love to do? Damn it. I'm going to read something. And you're going to have to listen, because it's over here, and I got to switch my phone thing off. I have my rules for playing these games that I send players. I'm going to put the hand cam on. I'm going to move my dice tray. I'm going to put one of my rule books out that I... Oh, here's an adventure. Anybody play this? Unholy Nights in Lankmar. It's a holiday adventure. Let me see here. Where am I? It's like a Christmas type adventure, but it is one of my favorite ones I've ever run. All right, here we go. Dungeon Club. All right, here are the rules. I'll read them as I show you the rule book. Here's the coolest DCC cover I have seen yet. Look at this. All right, rule 1, listen to the judge. Rule 2, be patient and wait your turn. I tell the players that. You got to be patient. Always discuss the plans with the other players before telling the judge. If you tell the judge or dungeon master before, he might say, okay, that happened. Without anybody wanting it to happen. No sending messages to the other members of the dungeon club when the game is played. And that's mostly for online play. Always have a paper and pencil ready. And your own dice. The judge rolls low for the players. So if I'm playing online... Oh, you're not at level 3. All right, I'm at level 4 in my group now. They're getting to level 4, and it's off the charts. Here's one. If you get 2 behavior warnings, you will be removed from the session. That's mostly for kids. Running a game, here's a rule. Running a game is very difficult, but when it works, the rewards are amazing. So do your best to have good sportsmanship. You know, try to teach the players to be cool to each other. Play the game smart, but don't forget to take some risks. That's the whole point, is you're playing a character where you get to do things a normal human can't do. Encourage the players to draw pictures of their characters. Here's one. Your actions of the game will always have a consequence, so be warned now that your characters are fragile and can die. Yes, they can. And then, for those about to die, we salute you. Let's have some fun and create some adventure stories together that we will never forget. And those are my rules. And I like that for every new player, a new game. I give them the rules. It just sets the tone of how it's going to be. It also warns them that you might die. So just get ready. There's an app. If you guys know the app, message it. I think it's called The Crawler. The Crawler. It's free. It's on the App Store. It's an awesome tool. I'm not a tech guy. I don't like using digital, but here's why I like this. The app can make a random funnel character or any non-player character really quick with a button, and you can email it. So if somebody has a character die, you can be like, boop. I just mailed you a couple funnels. 1 second. Ooh. Okay. Any questions? Let me know. Here we go. So one little thing that I do personally in this game is, and you tell me if you guys do this or not. When you play this Dungeons and Dragons or DCC, most rolls that you do in the game are based around a 20-sided die. It looks, I mean, if you game, you clearly know this dice. It's a very famous polyhedral. If you go to my Boardgasm page on Instagram, I posted one of these that is BC, like 200 BC. A polyhedral 20-sided dice, and they're pretty sure it was for a game. So go figure. Ancient. When you're rolling that dice, in DCC, every bad guy has an armor class. Every player has an armor class. And it doesn't mean armor, literally. It does, but it also means your agility and other factors. So if you have an armor class of 12, you might be a normal dude wearing a nice set of leather armor or something, right? And that means on the D20, the 20-sided dice, you got to roll it and get better than the 12 to hit the guy, right? It's a very simple system. And it's easy to teach that system. It's like, look, you roll this, add your strength bonus, and if you beat, right? But here's what I do. I don't tell them the number they're supposed to beat. Some Dungeon Masters say it. They'll go, this guy's got an armor class of 15, and you're like, oh, I missed. I don't do that. I basically, I say nothing. They do this. They'll say, all right, let me explain. When I'm dungeon mastering and it's the player's turn to attack the monster, which is what you do in the game, there's a monster, what do you want to do? And the guy goes, I want to attack. I teach the players to be very specific in how they word it. They'll go, I'm going to run up with my sword and swing at the guy's chest. I need to hear what weapon and how they're doing it. Or I'm going to go for a precision strike or something. But I want to hear what weapon they're using because now I know what the damage is. So then they roll the dice, and I go, what'd you get? And they'll go, 15. And let's say the monster's armor class is 17 because it's really like hard to hit. Maybe it doesn't have armor, but it jumps around a lot. So they'll roll it, and I'll just go, oh, you were really good. You're right up, but this thing is fast. And just as it jumped out of the way. So now they know it's a little hard to hit. They don't know what if you rolled a 13 or a 14, they're like, wow. Now they got to figure out what it is. They're like, wow, it must be like a 17 or an 18. I don't know. It's a better game. It's more mysterious. If the players are good, they'll start keeping track. They'll be like, oh, it's got to be this. Sometimes demons, if they're fighting a demon, the damage done isn't as good. And they don't know it's a demon, maybe. I don't tell them. I let them figure it out. I let them go, oh, wait. If my sword rolls a 6-sided dice to see how much damage it does, and I rolled a 6, and the Dungeon Master guy saying you only did 3 points of damage, maybe it's a demon. Maybe it takes half damage or something. It's a puzzle. This game is a little bit like a mystery game, which is why I showed this adventure. I've been running games for a while, and this is the one I've had the most fun with in a while. It's amazing. There's some crazy characters in this. I almost didn't order this because I thought it was but it's got a really cool story. It's an evil wizard type story, but it is. And it takes place in Lankmar, which is cool. So that's one of my dungeon mastering. Does anybody in here do this where, hey, Reverend Campbell! Reverend Campbell says storytelling is the most important part of DMing. Yeah, it helps the PCs see what they're doing and why. Well, that's it. The Dungeon Master is the painter of the painting. He explains it, and then the character's job is to now ask for the details. Oh, I want to go over and see that old tree. Does it have any peculiar markings on it? Does it have anything on the ground that I notice? Something different? And then I start to describe more. So that's why you need the players to learn how to, you have to teach your players how to be good players. If you don't, sometimes they don't learn. And if there's a good player in the game, the others will learn off of him, but not always. I've dungeon mastered for groups that are shy. They're just like, they don't know what to do. And I'm like, look, pretend it's real. What would you do? That's it. I break it down like that. I go, look, I have a game right now that's on a boat, and they're stranded. And they're like, what do we do? And I'm like, I don't know. What would you do if you were literally stranded on a boat right now and you saw nobody around and no land and you don't know how to sail? What would you do? Well, they figured it out. They started a small fire to make a smoke signal. They started doing stuff. And I'm like, see, this is why this game's good. You get them to problem solve and figure out these puzzles. Hold on. All right, now, here's something cool a lot of people don't do, and I don't know why. When I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons types role-playing games, there's a moment in every role-playing game where you got to figure out who's going first. The zombie walks in the room, and all the players go to hit him. They all roll dice to see who goes first. And what I do is I have these little character cards. Let me see here. Now, the game store in Brooklyn actually made little cards, and you can buy them. They're these little, like, cardboard cards, and I scribble things on them. Now, here's what you do. Here's one just made of paper. I write the character's name. I write their armor class. So now I see it. It's like armor class 14 here. Xiaohua, one of my adult players. Xiaohua, the wizard. He is an armor class of 14. So when I'm playing, I put it like that, in order of who's going first. I drop it over. And on this side, it depends who's playing or what. They'll see their name too, so they can kind of follow the track. It just makes it easy. Everybody knows who's going first. I don't like using the miniatures on the table, though. I'd rather it be a piece of paper. What's it say? Lowe's of Enoch brought something up very awesome about Dungeon Crawl Classics. Every monster in the game is unique. Now, when you buy the rule book, it has a little bestiary, section of monsters. All the basics. Zombie, dragon, demon, troll, right? But when you get the modules, none of those will be in there. No, they're all new. If there's a troll, it'll be a mutant troll. It'll be some new version of a troll. If it's a bat, it might be snow bats, and they're white, and they're cold, and they have cold breath. I don't know. But every monster in the game is unique, so when people encounter them, there's this like, what is this thing? I think it's a troll, but something's off. It's a nice touch they did. Good hits, bad misses. I like it. Well, there's a great die here. Where is it? I have a 20-sided die here where the 20 says yeah, and the 1 is the F word. It's kind of awesome when you're rolling. I always have my dice. I don't let the players use it unless they have to, because it's bad luck, I tell them. And I keep notes. As we're playing, I'm keeping track of stuff. Oh, here's a little trick. If someone finds a magic sword, and they don't know it's a magic sword, but they know it's special, I quickly tell them to jot down. I go, all right, you ready? You have a sword. It's a +1. You don't know what it is yet. So here you go. Write this down. And then I have them write down the module and the page number for back reference. Because they might get to a town that has a wizard, and they go, all right, can you cast a spell and tell me if this what it does? When they do, I then go look in my notes and go, oh, yeah, it's over here. You just found a sword of paralysis. And every successful hit paralyzes the bad guy. A good hit is max damage. A bad miss is the most colossal bad thing you can think of. Well, you know, and the fumble in the game, if you roll 1, something bad happened. You know, you tripped and fell on your own sword. You missed the goblin, but hit your buddy in the head. That happens in the game when you roll 1s, you know. God, this stuff it tastes like chocolate. It's a craft, no alcohol beer. Love it. I will say Dungeon Crawl Classics also makes Mutant Crawl Classics, which is a post-apocalyptic version of DCC. So instead of the gods, there's AI tech. Kind of cool. I'm going to bring up, what's his name's in here? Neon Lords. This is a post-apocalyptic, digital age, sci-fi, punk role-playing game coming out soon. The Kickstarter's on right now. Go look it up. Neon Lords. And dude, you broke your number already. You hit a number. You're already at stretch goals. Congrats. Not easy. I'm about to do my first Kickstarter at the end of the month. It's a pack of playing cards. A diabolical pack of cards. Yeah, it's going to be cool. Yeah, so my Dungeon Master technique is I'm going over it. That's it. I prepare, and then the actual gameplay, I take my time. I prefer Dungeon Crawl Classics because of how the maps work. It's very easy to follow. You go into a room, I read what it is quickly, and then I explain what they need to know. If it has a door that's locked, I say the door's locked. And then it's up to them to figure out how to open it. Oh! Neon Lord said he hit 6K today. That's a good number. Congrats. That feels good, doesn't it? I love that a lot of these independent game creators have a platform now to make their stuff come alive. And it's easy to find the fan base. I mean, clearly when your book comes out, I'll review it right here. And your fan base, it's homegrown. It's a homegrown fan base, which is what I'm doing here on this show. If you're watching this channel right now and you're new to it, please subscribe. Like, subscribe, notify. Because my other shows, if you like this, you're going to love them. My show, Behind the Devil's Curtain, is my new, call it my new child. It's a lot of work. I've done 2 episodes. Episode 3's up on Friday the 13th. And I have many planned. I also have another show where I teach magic. It's called Magic Method. I don't do as many of those. That's a little more exclusive. I did one of my basic sleight of hand technique 101 kind of thing. Very basic. And I'm going to do a second one. Magic Method 2, where I get into the hard stuff. And then I have my News Hour show. My News Hour show, I do review games. I do. Oh, tomorrow I get Come On Games, Night of the Living Dead. Comes tomorrow, which means next week or the following week I'll do a formal review after I play a few rounds. It looks great. I watched the gameplay. It's the movie. They're coming to get you, Barbara. It's that. It's the movie. It's the house, the whole thing. Please ask questions. Anybody have questions? Ask me. I love questions. God, roll in the open, I wrote down with a big exclamation point. Build your own land. Literally map out a map and keep it. There are so many free resources for players. If you're broke and you just can afford this for $24, do you know how many free adventures there are online? Free! There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, enough you'll never ever need to buy one. They're free online. You can download them. People write them and put them up. A lot of those that I've run are pretty good. And, sometimes I'll tool them a bit. I'll add some stuff to it. One thing I wish somebody would come up with, and I haven't figured it out exactly, is if I have a level 2 adventure and I just want to make it a level 3 adventure, what I can change on a basic note. Like, make all the armor classes up 2. There's got to be a little trick to it. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll have a level 2 adventure and there's a bunch of level 3 players, so I'll just bump it up. All I do is tool it as I'm going. Bam! What's your favorite AD&D character classes? Curious. Mine are fighters and magic users, says William. Okay. AD&D, I don't like the wizard. It just takes too long to get some juice in the fingers. I always liked the assassin, and I liked playing dwarf fighters. I'm a dwarf guy. I like playing dwarves. I also like playing halflings. I also like playing gnomes. But I do like DCC. If I was going to play DCC, I like wizards. That's me. I like a wizard. Clerics can be fun too. I used to not like clerics until I found DCC. Davidson likes thieves and magic users. Thieves are fun. Now, in DCC, thieves are basically the only character class with skills. They got rid of skills in DCC. They're there, but they're rare. You either know the stuff because of your job, or you got to go learn it, and it's a little interesting. Thieves are fun. Playing a dwarf. Dwarf is a character class in DCC, which is what it was in the old original Dungeons and Dragons. The character classes in DCC are human, fighter, cleric, thief, wizard. Okay? And then halfling, elf, dwarf. They're a class. Halflings have some thief abilities. Elves have magic casting abilities. And dwarves have fighter abilities. They have some cool stuff, dwarves. They can do a shield. It's called board and sword. They got a shield and a sword, and they know how to trick it out and fight with it. Oh, yeah, here you go. See? William remembers, like, something that happened in a game many years ago, I'm sure. He won a tournament one time, and AD&D was 2nd edition mage using a chain lightning, and it bounced off the walls for the win. Yeah, I mean, I remember a zombie module we ran in college. I can still see it. It's like, we also did one, it was one of the Ravenlofts, where the adventure starts with your brain and eyes in a jar. And you're able to look around and see the other players' brains in jars. And you look, and on the table are your bodies. And the adventure is you trying to figure out how to get your brains back in the bodies. That's how it started. Class as race is the best. Well, I like that because if you're a halfling, you're not a human. I mean, just plain and simple. It's a completely different thing. They're very different. Same with an elf. I mean, they're different. It's a different thing. They have different abilities, different powers, different values. Let's talk about alignment, because this is something a lot of people don't understand. Dungeons and Dragons had 9 alignments. Lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil. Neutral good, true neutral, neutral evil. And then chaotic good, or chaotic neutral, and chaotic evil. DCC has law, neutral, chaos, and good and evil aren't discussed. It doesn't mean anything. Which is how I think the real world works. Which is why I like that. You can be lawful. It has nothing to do with you're a good guy or a bad guy. I love teaching little kids what lawful evil is. I let them figure it out. I'll be like, all right, look, lawful means you follow rules. Even if they're bad rules, you follow them all the way. And I go, so what's an example? A lot of them will say Nazis right away. Some of them will figure out gangs or mafia stuff. And that's clearly lawful evil. And then chaotic. What does that mean? Well, it means you kind of roll with the punches and do what you want when you want. It doesn't mean good or evil. You can be chaotic good. I think that's a fun one to play. If you're pretty much a good guy, but you're kind of chaotic, that's fun. Chaotic evil's a little tricky. No one wants to deal with that. That's too much. Yes. Okay, so somebody brought something up. I wouldn't say this is just a DCC thing, but I think it's a good Dungeon Master technique. K. Wood said, did you mention that in DCC, the players don't know everything? Meaning that if they come across a monster, the judge doesn't identify what that monster is. Excellent. It's like, here we go. All right, so your characters walk over this hill in the evening, and they see what looks like a humanoid walking slowly up the hill. And he looks like he's kind of sleepy, maybe sleepwalking. So what do you want to do? And the players will say, we're just going to stay back and watch. As he gets closer, you notice that his eyes are kind of glazed over, and it looks like he's got some liquid coming out of his mouth. And the player's like, okay. And then I'll describe more. I go, and you hear a low, like, grunt, like a... Immediately one of the players can go, it's a zombie, or it's a ghoul. I don't tell them what it is. I want them to figure it out by my description. Excellent point, K. Woods. Excellent. Yeah, it's they don't know anything. It actually says in the DCC rulebook, most people are illiterate And most people haven't left their village more than a few miles. And I always stress that to the players. Like, your characters don't know much. They're country bumpkins, and they're just learning. They've never been anywhere except out of their little town. And I use that to describe the monsters, too. Yeah, clearly. Way better. A lot of these monsters are legend. You know, they heard about them, but they never encountered them. And now they're going to actually encounter the monster. DCC writes a very brief bio for the monster stats that's really easy for me to look at it and jot it in a notebook and run that monster and play him. I really try to make my games fair and challenging. I want them to be a game. Not just storytelling, but a game, like actually something you're trying to crack. A code, a puzzle. You're trying to solve the puzzle as this story that's very colorful with imagery is being unfolded. That's what role-playing is. That's what an RPG is. It's living theater with a very specific set of rules. I just remembered, I used to have the Indiana Jones rules for TSR put out an RPG. I didn't like it. Because of what I said earlier. I didn't like the fact that it made me think of the movie. It ruined it for me. And that's exactly the point Kay Woods just brought up. You know, I don't want them thinking of the movies and stuff. I want it to be now. Okay. He said, how much of your personal fantasies of the character do you bring to as the player? Okay. Well, again, I don't get to play much. I want to. If anybody's watching and you're running games, let me know. I'm in. One of the guys that writes for DCC, my God, my brain's blanking. He might be watching now. He wrote the Cannibal Crone one that's in one of the collected works. I got to play one of his games live on Zoom, and wow, I had a blast. Wow. I play my characters. How much do I bring? I don't know how much I bring fantasy. I wait to see what it's going to be. Like, whatever the character is going to be, I try to come up with something for that. With a little bit of my own stuff inside. So I guess a lot, actually. There's rules for 2-weapon fighting. Secondhand, use the D14. Yeah. So he's going into a technical thing here where if you have 2 weapons, in DCC, you roll the D20. Well, you roll lesser dice because you're not as good with 2. And that's something they figured out in DCC. It's called the dice chain. There's a chain. It goes D30, D24. For anybody watching that's like, what the heck's the D? It represents the dice. Dice 20 means a 20-sided die. A D4 is a 4-sided die. A D6 is a 6-sided die. 2D6 would mean you roll 2 D6s. 3D4 would mean you roll 3 D4s. You guys know. I got to do a Neon Lords game on Zoom, brother. Let me know. I'll make time for that. For sure. I'm going to talk on this note, because we've been in here for an hour and a half, and I could talk about this stuff for another hour and a half. And I got a party on the porch that I'm going to go hang out with. Let's talk about Zoom. Now, my day job is I do professional magic shows. I do corporate gigs, I do kids, I do schools, I do rap parties for TV shows, I do conventions where they're selling product. I do all of it. Well, the pandemic hit, and I, like that, started doing Zoom shows. And I was doing 9-10 a week. You remember graduation week? I was doing graduation parties on Zoom. Zoom works. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No. But it works. You can do a magic show on Zoom. Why? Because it's interactive. When I'm doing a magic show on Zoom, I can be like, yo, you're going to pick a card. Which one do you like? You like the 2? You can interact. You can also get up close. Move far away, right? Dungeon mastering and playing these games on Zoom, it totally works. And I'm going to tell everybody a little secret about people that cheat with dice rolls on Zoom. That's why I like dice trays. A lot of people will roll, and if it falls on the floor and it's a good number, they'll go, hey, I got a 16. If it falls on the floor and it's a bad number, they'll go, oh, wait, it fell on the floor, let me roll again. So they're getting 2 rolls out of 1. I remind people about that before we play. I go, you got to roll it on the table, every roll, and it's got to go in your box. And if I ask to see it, you got to show me. That way they're like, oh, he's going to check. It's like, uh-huh. And you can check me too. I'm going to roll and go and show the camera. Zoom works. You just have to be really good at explaining and keeping it moving so it's not boring. I'm able to command a presence live. It's what I do professionally. You throw me in a room with 600, 700, or even 2,000 people, I know what to do. I know how to walk, talk, move to get them to watch what I'm doing. Here, it's a little different. You got to keep it moving. Can't be boring. Can't make it boring. You got to keep the pace going. You got to describe. I also use the feature on Zoom where I put a picture up for them to see a map. I'm constantly showing maps. And here's another little Dungeon Master trick I was waiting to the end to show you. Make a magic wand. This is mine. It looks really weird. It's got a crystal. It's got a poofy piece of fox hair. And it's a wooden stick I found. And I stained it. Now, this wand I use a lot. I even use it in my Zoom show when I'm doing Zoom ones. It's your pointer. It's your map pointer. I use this all the time for pointing at things. And it commands presence. Some guys dress up. I am a fan of incense, mood lighting, candles, and a little background music. It helps. It creates an environment of fun, theatrical moment where you're going to sit and tell stories with some rules with your friends, and you're going to create memories and a bond with a group of people that's unlike any other bond you've ever had. It's like going, oh yeah, if you're with your group of friends that play these things and there's other people around and they hear you talking about it, they're like, what? Did this actually happen? Like, the fact that you guys can talk about it like that is shocking. You know, it's like, you sound like this actually happened. It's like, oh, it did happen. It happened up here. And we all shared it at the same time, which is why it's locked. It's in our minds and in our hearts now. And these kind of things all add to it, you know. I work as a professional magician. I never use a magic wand live on stage, ever. But when I Dungeon Master, I use a magic wand. It's my pointer. It's my map pointer. There's a name for this. I know in the Jewish religion, they use this when they're reading the Torah. They have like a pointer. If anybody knows the name, throw it out there. It's got a technical name. Let's read some comments here. Ah, thank you. You like my wand, Libra Liz. A Mecha campaign. What's Mecha? Is that a game? Oh, thank you, Harvest. Love it. Dude, I might make another one. I've had this one now for a little while. I had one in high school I made that I did the real version. You drill a hole in the back of the wood, and then you prick your finger or your hand or your arm or whatever, and you get a little piece of cotton, and you put a little blood in it, and then you stuff it in, and you seal it with wax. And now it's a real wand. It's got your blood in it. This one does not have that, but this one I mounted a nice piece of quartz crystal at the end using Super Sculpty. My original use for this wand when I made it was for a flea circus that I don't do anymore. Because with a flea circus, I used to use this to pick up the fleas, the tip of the wand. Neon Lords said, they have some amazing bands doing Dungeon Drone. Oh, Mecha, Pilot Robots, of course. So there's a band called Old Sorcery I use a lot for dungeon mastering. They call it Dungeon Synth, I think is the genre. Or what are you calling it there? Drone? Dungeon Drone? I do like Mecha, but for role-playing, I prefer fantasy or the mutant apocalypse stuff. It's got a punk rock vibe. What is the grip made of? It's a mixture of, well, it was black duct tape covered with Super Sculpey. that sculpey stuff kind of put around and hardened and then painted. This isn't done. This is a work in progress. I'm going to actually wrap this eventually with something cool. I might add some lights to it. Who knows? I kind of dig it. It's just my own fun weirdness. But I use it. I use it to move things. When they're doing, like, who's standing where, I'll draw on the paper. I'll put X's in circles. I'll be like, the monster's here. Where are you? Over here? Cool. And then I'll use this for pointing purposes. Online, I really use it. I'll hold the book up and use it to show maps. For instance, let's see. Is there a good map in this one? Ooh, that. All right, here's a map. You're not going to be able to see this well. But look, you can use it to trace where they've been. So I do like this a lot. Folks, if you're new in this channel, like and subscribe, man. If you had a good time tonight, it's the least. You just like the channel, subscribe to it. Donations, dude, we got some in tonight. Every donation I get, I'm super grateful. I've made, in the last 3 weeks of doing these, and I'm doing 3 a week now. I'm going to do more. It's going to be 4 or 5 a week eventually. Not this show, Boardgasm, but other shows. I've made over almost $600 in donations. And I'm getting new equipment constantly. I'm constantly adding to this. It's all going in the show. None of it's going in my pocket. It's going to be a while for that. But I am here. I'm in it to win it. I delayed doing YouTube for a while. I was doing the Instagrams and all of that. And it works. I got it to work. This is it now. I'm on here. So if you had a good time tonight, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Tell your friends. I'm going to be doing a review of games. This channel's reviews, tips, and just goofy, fun stuff. Because I'm all things board games. I might do just a dice episode. Because I have a lot of weird dice. Bioleather. Ooh. Book. Alright. I'll look that up. I never even heard of that term. Bioleather. God, it sounds so tough. Sounds like a... That's a cool name for a movie. Bioleather. Yeah, and then, dude, I'm going to be doing the Neon Lords one here. When is it out? It's soon. I mean, you're going to bust this out quick, I'm assuming. It looks like you are. So, folks, I had a blast tonight. It's Friday night. I'm going to go have some fun. I've got a lot of work to do next week. I'm going to be live on Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, I think, with my News Hour show. And that show, I get kind of personal. I'm starting to open up a little bit about some personal stuff in my life. And I think I'm doing one on my personal mentors. The people that really taught me stuff. I'm going to get into some crazy stories about them that you're never going to believe some of the crazy stuff. And next Friday, I got Behind the Devil's Curtain. I'm going to show a trailer. I always put it at the end. That's my little favorite project. That's my life's work. I've been working on that show my whole life. And next week, the episode is called Necromancy and Ventriloquism. You're going to love it. So, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else out there, my name is Cardone. You have been watching Boardgasm, Episode 9. Folks, wow, thank you. Oh, August? Yes. I'll be playing your game in August. We'll do one on here. We'll go through. I'll talk about it on here. I'll do an episode. I'll do an overview of character creation or something. Yeah. Anybody that has ideas for episodes in the gaming world, shoot me a message. There's messaging on here. The donation button. So if you're watching this right now, there should be a donation button on my actual screen. That's new. I just figured out how to do that. If you want to donate, click there. It goes right in the show. And anybody else, if it's new, like and subscribe. You guys are awesome. You have been watching Boardgasm. This was episode 9. And, folks, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Come back and visit us soon. And, yeah, I'm going to show the Behind the Devil's Curtain trailer right after this. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up? If you like board games, miniatures, and the smell of paint and glue, you are in the right place. Welcome to Boardgasm.